Alright, it is another edition of Horror Movie Monday here on the Corvo Riot Show. This week I am joined by something or other, Dr. Carl Martin, manager extraordinaire in the world of professional wrestling, and real life therapist. What would your exact...
Yeah, I'm a therapist right now. I work as like a behavior consultant in schools. So it's been a good time. I like working in mental health. I like being able to take that experience and use it in pro wrestling. But at the same time, I love horror because I think horror really dives into a lot of psychological, sociological issues. There's always undertones, like Romero, always having a commentary on capitalism.
Yeah. The Romero movies are great for that because they do it in that, similar to like the Twilight Zone, that subtle way where it's still a very entertaining movie, but if you do want to look deeper, you can. He doesn't force the political or social commentary, but it's there, and it is one of the great aspects of horror. It's one of the things I've always enjoyed about horror, is finding those little deeper nuances. Before we jump into our actual topic today, though, The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, coming from your side, from a mental health aspect, why horror? Why do people gravitate towards the genre?
I think a lot of it has to do with curiosity. Movies allow us to look into worlds and situations that being in would be absolutely terrible. So we're removed from it, but we get to almost like live vicariously with it. I think that a lot of people in today's age, especially in our age bracket, 9/11 occurred. We've been at war for years, and I think you see horror movies come out around the same time as wars, because people's minds go that way. I think it's an escape. It's a measure of control. We know it's not really threatening, but it still stimulates the brain in the way that it would. Kind of that fight or flight response. People like that feeling.
Yeah, I've always seen it from my end to be the ability to look danger in the face, but without actually being in that danger.
Mm-hmm.
And it does. It'll, like we're doing here, it'll stimulate and generate conversation of, oh, well, what would you do in that situation? Or, so it's so weird. It seems like horror movie fans are kind of outcast and antisocial, but in a way, it is the thing that socially brings us all together.
It's way more mainstream now than it's ever been. We've got
Absolutely.
horror cons. I mean, if you look at the theaters lately, some of the biggest independent movies were horror movies this year. Where we're in a world of sequels or redos or remakes. I think horror is the most original out there, and it's kind of funny that I would say that, because The Thing, 1982's The Thing, is a remake from The Thing from Another World.
Yeah, it's not an original movie per se, but it's a remake done right in the sense that John Carpenter took the original story and took what was already kind of laid out and put his own coat of paint on it, put his own stamp on it. It was a very original take at something that had already been done.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love it. It delves into paranoia, isolation. Yeah. I think it really just jumps into that. Well, how do we know? who's who.
Yeah.
And even today, I think that reigns true when you look at our political landscape. We're all wondering, are you one of those things?
Yeah. Exactly. It fits the current times still, to this day, which is it's what makes some of these films, stand the test of time.
Yeah.
It is very Twilight Zone-esque in that, the approach to it and the build-up of just complete distrust. Nobody trusts anybody. And understandably so. And, we talked about it off air, just texting, but it's the perfect setting for a film. Like, what is more of a off-the-grid location, middle of nowhere, than Antarctica?
Mm-hmm.
It's not a place that, is generally habitated by people, if that's a word. I don't know. Maybe I made that up.
Inhabited.
There you go. See, this is why I have smart people on this show. Yeah, so it's where do you go? Who do you call? What, like,
Yeah.
you're
There's no quick solution if somebody gets hurt. Like, they have medical staff there, and it's really interesting because even now today in Antarctica, there's still only a couple of research stations. Every year before they go into their winter season, they watch this movie every year. So it's even become a part of that culture and things, which is really surprising because it's a movie that flopped in the box office.
critically did not do well. Actually, cost John Carpenter some projects that were coming up after. I forget what the film was, because it was a pretty well known film. He was actually supposed to originally be the director of after that, but critically and financially, I guess it didn't do well. It was not
Siskel
a
and
big
Ebert
success.
didn't enjoy it. I think it plays into what else was in theaters. E.T. Steven Spielberg's E.T. was coming out, and here's a friendly alien where everybody's like, oh boy, the whole family can go see it. It's a fun, heartwarming movie, even though that movie scared me more than The Thing. But you come out with this now really gut-wrenching, visceral, violent movie that you going into this
visual.
Yeah, you could have no idea that this is what you were in for. No clue.
Yeah, the poster, the promotional material for it, you wouldn't have known what you were in for till it got to you.
Yeah. Yep.
It wasn't a very revealing poster.
Yeah,
especially for what came in the movie. I think from a special effects standpoint, this is proof that practical is the fucking way to go, man. You can't do better than practical. And when they rebooted this movie, what was it, 2011? I want to say. Which I had no idea even existed until like last year. I had no idea that there was a reboot like of John Carpenter's The Thing. But they went with the CG route, and I've seen clips online. It looks fucking terrible.
It was really disappointing as a fan to see that, and what's even worse is they did shoot practical effects. They actually had them, but from what I understand, all that stuff's gone. Which is a real
you do see practical effects in horror and in cinema, with the exception of the super indie route, but they are becoming, especially in mainstream Hollywood, they're becoming less and less and less. Despite the fact that they look better than probably anything you're going to do on CG.
Absolutely.
And they cost a fraction of what it costs to have the CG effects done. So, like, it's mind-boggling to me. Like, we're going to dump millions and millions more into these budgets. It's like, it's almost like greed blinds the greedy, where they cost themselves money. It's like these movies would be so much more profitable going the practical route as opposed to the CG route, but they don't do it. They want to go with that CG route, and it doesn't. It does not.
It doesn't stand the test of time, like you were saying.
No, the effects in this movie were still like, and this was my first time watching the movie.
Yeah.
So we're recording this on a Thursday. Tuesday is the first time I've ever seen this movie. The effects still get you, like, they are so convincing and perfect.
Yeah.
There's
even
just
updated
a
into
charm.
4K, it's still really good.
Yeah, there's such a charm about them. They do something emotionally that CG can't do. It's the effects in this movie felt like they had life to them, and CG just feels lifeless.
Exactly. Very true. Very true. It's just all throughout this movie, Rob Bottin and his team were in charge of the special effects, and they killed it. Every one of those big monster reveals, it's burned into my memory. And if you go to the Norris scene with the chest bursting open, Palmer, his head ripping in half and grabbing windows, or even, the Blair monster, Wilford Brimley finally showing back up, and I can't imagine how people came up with these monsters. That's how cool they are.
Yeah, it's where do you even get the idea for this stuff? Like the one where the two heads are split, and just everything's so visceral, and grotesque. And I'm not a super squirmish person when it comes to horror movies, but I found myself at times with this, like, ooh, okay, like even to the when they're doing the autopsy on the one and they're peeling the flesh, like, it looked like they were peeling like real flesh, like,
absolutely
everything looked so convincing, and it just gives you the heebie-jeebies.
And on top of that, you have the performance by the actors in this.
Phenomenal.
Like I said, that scene, Wilford Brimley, I don't think you'd have the same movie if you didn't have Wilford Brimley there to add this kind of sense of realism. He can always deliver those lines and really becomes that character. And he doesn't look like Wilford Brimley in this. He doesn't have the big bushy mustache.
Right. Yeah. It's the actors were phenomenal. Kurt Russell is just always great.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know why I was so reminded of you so many times looking at Kurt Russell in this movie. I think that's going to be the cover art to this. It's just going to be a picture of you and a picture of Kurt Russell in the Thing next to each other.
It's definitely not completely by mistake either.
Yeah.
It all came together like that. But again, I want to cosplay that character too. There's some fun little, you can get, like, make your own flamethrower and stuff. I think that'd be fun. But that big hat, that huge toboggan hat that he has, it's pretty rare. And even that hat is like $500 online.
Shit.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's insane. But yeah, and especially towards the end, I got a good reminder of you. Well, fuck you too.
Well, fuck you too. It's my favorite, man. Yeah. I like his no nonsense attitude in it. The background of R.J. McCready is pretty cool too. He was a helicopter pilot in Vietnam, and a fan actually created a prequel to what R.J. McCready was doing, where when he got out of Vietnam, he started working with drug runners, flying, various substances across borders. And that's how he kind of ended up finding himself having to go to Antarctica to get away from some folks that he wasn't too keen on. And I think that fits really well with the overall character.
Yeah.
That seems exactly why, because he's miserable. He doesn't want to be there. It's absolutely hell for him, but that's where he's got to be right now.
It's such a creative scenario, like just everything from where the location, the design of everything. It scenery wise, it's phenomenal. It just, like we were talking earlier, Antarctica just provided that perfect vibe for it, and his character kind of thrives in that vibe, that scenario and that scenery. He you can tell he doesn't want to be there, but
yeah,
there's something about his character that just works with it.
Everybody that's there, they've all kind of gone insane already being there.
Yeah, you can kind of tell that from the beginning. Well, I mean, look at it. Like, everybody in there is drinking liquor straight from the bottle, and chain smoking cigarettes and smoking doobies, and the fuck were our tax dollars being spent on?
It's great. And that's, I love it. It's very authentic. The characters feel very real because they're not perfect. Nobody, they're there. You don't go to Antarctica just because you necessarily want to. You might have run out of some ideas there. Then you add that backdrop with the score that John Carpenter does, the soundtrack, the whistling wind. Like, every time I hear that wind in the real world, I'm like, oh, gotta go watch The Thing.
Sound from a sound perspective, much like many of John Carpenter's movies, phenomenal. That intro music, that bass line, that boom 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 boom.
I love it.
It's so simple, and yet it sets the tone right there for you.
It's amazing now, all these years later, that it's become a cult classic. Everywhere you look, there is a touch of John Carpenter in horror.
Yes.
The soundtrack, the synthesizers, the neon, it just permeated into the culture, and now everybody loves The Thing. If you talk to a horror fan, it's in their top 10. For me, it's my number one horror movie. It's the best I think I've ever seen. I don't know if anything will be able to replace it, but I'm open-minded.
Yeah, it has become a classic film. That, unfortunately, it took too long to get its due. But yeah, it is just, again, like so many John Carpenter movies, there's so many different elements in the detail and things that he just gets and puts together and makes you, as much as this was a special effects film and the really gross out, effects, it still was a movie that emotionally hooked you. The story still pulls you in. It's not just a in your face special effects movie. It's got story development, it's got characters you care about, and you genuinely get an emotional reaction out of it, which is the mark of a great horror movie. A horror movie should make you feel something. Absolutely.
I think almost as you're watching, you feel like the 13th man. You feel like you're in there too, and you're looking at them. You're trying to figure out, well, is there a tell? What's different? Could maybe a glint in their eye could tell us what the real story is? Because this movie leaves you with so many questions.
Yeah.
And they don't answer them. They still haven't been answered. There are entire online communities dedicated to people trying to figure out what the ending to this movie was.
Yeah, because it is very it's very open ended. Does it have the happy ending? Are they rescued and everything's better, or you know, do they freeze to death out in the snow?
And would that be better?
Yeah,
Should that be what happens?
right?
Right?
Because what another scenario, they're rescued, and here one of them's already, one of them's a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna bring them back to the mainland, and all hell's gonna break loose. Like, what does it mean for the world?
Right. It's 72,000 hours and everything's gone.
Right, like
It's cool because they dive into that, and the Dark Horse comic series is really great. And the video game that came out was also really good.
yes. I've only played a little bit of the video game. I do want to get back to it and revisit it. But yeah, I didn't even know there was a game until a few years ago. For PlayStation 2, The Thing. Now, that was a prequel, sort of, or like what was the story
That takes
connection
place
there?
right after. So
Okay.
this is the rescue team coming into the camp now, and they get there, and it's already blown up. It's really cool. In the first few minutes, you find Childs there in one of the shacks, and you find the tape recorder. It's interesting. It's a fun one.
Okay, I knew it was either before or after. I could
The
remember.
movie's a prequel, although it's almost like a remake. They do a lot of the same exact things in that in the
Yeah.
2011.
Yeah, that game visually was really cool. It just had
Yeah.
a dark like vibe. Like, yeah, it definitely was. The little bit of it that I played, I was definitely like kind of on the edge of my seat. Like,
Because things will just jump out from anywhere. They've got like little head monsters and all.
yeah,
I think I
you
have
don't
the
know.
game guide still somewhere here.
Yeah, I had the game itself for a while.
Yeah.
I just recently sold it not too long ago, but yeah, that is one I do got to go back and revisit because I've only heard good things about it.
Yeah, it's a fun one. The movie itself is just it created so much. It was really Lovecraftian before horror got into Lovecraft. I
Right.
think it jumped into this kind of body horror, and then the paranoia on top. So you're just on the edge of your seat the whole time. For you, what was your favorite like monster sequence out of them? Like you've got the kennel scene, you've got the Norris monster, Palmer monster, and that final guy.
The kennel scene stuck out.
Yeah,
The kennel scene was wild. That was
Yeah.
because one, you never want to see anything happen to the animal in a movie.
right. Right.
So right there, it gets you. Plus, you now realize this is the moment that they're fucked.
Yeah, and you can see their brains just kind of break.
That was right there, and it didn't slowly. The distrust didn't build slow. It was there.
Yeah,
It was right there. Oh,
What are we dealing
great.
with?
What now? What?
McCready wants the what?
Yeah.
Get the flamethrower, man.
Yeah, and that's the only thing they could do is burn this thing, which you're like, man, how long until they torch this whole goddamn place? Like,
Exactly. A place could go up like a tinderbox, and then you got nothing.
yeah,
It was that scene where Clark is walking up to it. You hear the dogs, and even this guy who is very protective of the animals, he isn't running in there. Something in there is weird, and it's pissed off.
yeah, yeah. You could. It was so great, and that was another dimension to that character too. That was great. You could tell with the animals. It was like at the one point where he tries to actually stop one of them from harming one of the dogs. It's like,
Yeah.
you could tell throughout it, it was like, he didn't want to get in there, but he also didn't want anything like to happen to the animals. And it gives you that other emotional kind of dimension to him.
It's brutal. It's a brutal scene that's really the moment the movie hits you. Like, nothing's off limits. Hey, we don't care.
And it's full throttle from there.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it doesn't really slow down at all. It just keeps speeding up and just keeps going. And like I said, at that moment, that was the moment you knew they were in for it. And it's all downhill from here, you know.
I think it was really cool. The testing sequence, kind of trying to put together the pieces, who got to the blood. There's a lot of whodunits in this. Even that first scene where the dog, I don't know if you know this, quick bit of trivia. Did you know that dog is the same dog from White Fang that played the wolf?
I did not know that.
Yeah, man. Jed is the dog's name. And Jed's walking down the hallway and you see him turn into that first room and that shadow turns and looks at him. You don't know who that is.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, it's not a member of the cast. It's actually like a part of the crew. Carpenter didn't want to have one of the actors sitting there. That way, nobody would know who it is.
Right. Yeah. Those little things Carpenter does visually in his movies, those subtle things, man.
And he won't tell anybody. Like one of the funniest things when you see a picture of John Carpenter from today, he doesn't smile. He always just looks miserable.
He does,
and like he won't tell the fanboys anything.
Yeah. Some of that is probably he doesn't even know. There was probably no intention behind it other than just to mess with people.
Exactly.
That was trolling before the internet.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fun because they'll ask him, what's the ending? And he's like, I don't know.
Yeah. And Carpenter does this wonderful thing where he lets you create in your mind.
Yeah.
With his movies.
Because then you can be scared of what's around the corner without knowing what it is.
Right. Take it back to Halloween and the that ending that everybody thinks, oh yeah, that was totally set up a sequel. And no, that was totally so that when you got home and you're putting the key in the door, you're kind of like, is he out there? The
boogeyman is real. Yeah.
Right. I think people look too much into some of the things Carpenter does, and it's like, no, they're just subtleties to make things stick.
Exactly.
And make them more effective and make you remember, that's what they are.
It's cool. Like, the Thing is part of what they refer to as Carpenter's Apocalypse trilogy. And the other two movies of that are Prince of Darkness and In the Mouth of Madness. Basically, all three of these movies have a really, really like kind of depressing ending where, hey, it's over. Everybody lost. It's, the good guys didn't win.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that Carpenter almost, he's not looking to satisfy the audience. He's looking to make them feel something, like you said earlier.
Right. That's the key, and that's what makes his movies so great. His movies they make you feel something. That is, in any form of storytelling, that's the key. That's what you're going for. So I'd say on many occasions he's pulled that off successfully.
Definitely. It's stuck around. It's from 1982. It's 40 years old. That's insane. Even now it's getting its due.
Right, and that's the craziest thing about it. Going back to it, nobody liked this movie when it came out.
Right.
It's only gotten more and more popular and more appreciated as time goes on. And that's a testament to how great of a film it was, and maybe it was a little bit of ahead of its time, or
Yeah. It's like the Marty McFly meme. Yeah, you kids don't get it right now, but your kids will love it.
yeah, exactly. It's crazy, and yeah, there's plenty of us. I've seen it for the first time now, and I love it, but I wasn't even around when that movie came out. So
Right. Same. And now, like, I watched it as a kid, and it stuck with me so much. I didn't have a copy of it for the longest time. That once I saw it again, like in a store, I bought it right away. And then I was showing my friends this movie because it was like, I've never seen a horror movie like this before.
yeah,
And it's one of those movies where I want to sit there and watch my friend, and I just want to see how they react when this dog's head splits open and shoots out this thing of dog tongues,
yeah,
into the air. It's great. It's great. Like madness.
yeah, and we're lucky that it gained its popularity because, like, let's face it, a film like that flops could have also fallen into obscurity over the last however many years it's been, and
Really?
none of us would be talking about it, but we are.
Yeah.
So
One thing that I like is that horror is getting a new renaissance, I think. I'm a huge fan of Shudder. Shudder is
Yeah.
such a cool platform that has grown over the past couple of years.
and not only that, it's not expensive, and just the sheer amount of fucking content there. I mean,
Yep.
I want to say 600 some odd movies, and that's before you even get into the goddamn series, different
Right.
TV series that they have on there, original series and stuff. So Shudder's phenomenal. And
Hey, if you're looking to sponsor somebody, I know a guy who would love to have a sponsor for his show.
yeah, I think I know a guy too, actually. Yeah, what the hell am I doing putting them over on here? No, it is great. It's not super expensive. There's a ton of content. And some of the documentaries they've got on there that are really creating a renaissance, especially for the 80s films with those In Search of Darkness documentaries, which I can't wait for the third one.
Very cool stuff. I love Joe Bob. I love all that stuff. The more, the better.
I love Marcy, the mail girl.
Oh yeah,
Darcy, the mail girl. Yeah,
yeah, she's great. She's also a big wrestling fan too.
Yeah,
she goes to AEW Dynamite just about whenever she can. So
yeah, big fan of her work.
Yeah, and it creates this kind of culture around horror where now it's like, oh, I didn't realize that everybody really liked that section of Blockbuster so much.
Yeah, dude, that's what it feels like sometimes scrolling through there. It feels like a digital version of the video store.
Yeah, which is great because I love the old Giallos, and I like their original stuff that they've been coming out with. They're coming out with like releasing new movies every week.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend it. But back to the thing at hand.
That's probably going to be the new reboot in a few years. Thing at hand.
There it is. It's about a bunch of incels together. Somebody's getting lucky, and it ain't me. But I want to kind of talk a little bit about other homages. Like, I'm curious now that you just watched it on Tuesday. Are you kind of thinking back to other movies that had an homage to this?
You know what? Not really. Only because I'm behind on so much horror, despite being a horror fan, just because for a variety of reasons. Like, so there's a lot I haven't seen that, like, probably should have or need to.
Yeah.
So I'm sure I'll find some in the future, but, like, I don't know. Everything's really been a lot of, like, slashers and shit like that for me, more than in the realm of science fiction creatures and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So,
and those fly under the radar still a little bit.
Yeah.
One of my favorites is The Void. It's a pretty recent one, and it's really good. It's again practical effects, really bizarre, deranged monsters, which is always fun. Really recently, It Chapter Two had the head spider scene, and what's his name? He was in Barry. Oh, can't remember his name. Played Richie. Let me see.
Yeah, you're gonna have to look that one up. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I can barely remember my own name half the time, so.
Oh, Bill Hader. Yeah. So
Got it.
Bill Hader even uses the line, "You gotta be fucking kidding." Another classic Kurt Russell moment where he just says nothing and shoots the flamethrower at it.
Yeah.
Which is great.
It's so good. There's so many great moments like that. When they try to ditch Kurt Russell thinking he's a thing, and he comes back and he's just like, all right, like fucking everybody.
Yeah, he's like, that's it. Like, if I go, everybody's going.
Yeah. The line, you know, I'd rather not spend the rest of my winter tied up to this fucking couch.
Yeah, man.
You know, there's like moments that make you kind of giggle a little bit, but then you're just like, you're right back to like, ooh, ugh.
Right.
You know?
The moments of levity. And I think that's really important to have in movies. Yeah. You got to have these moments that break the tension so you can rebuild it. It's very much in wrestling that way, like a falsie, you know?
Yeah. You got to, you know, in wrestling, sometimes you want to divert the audience's attention over here so that something can happen over here. And it's the same in horror. Like, there's so many parallels, yeah, that just the way you build a story, the way you create, you know, the peril that the main character or the babyface is in, you know.
Kurt Russell is totally stone cold Steve
Oh
Austin.
my God, yeah.
He doesn't want to be in charge, but is like forced to be in charge.
Yeah, like if he doesn't, nobody will, you know.
Yep.
Basically, Kurt Russell's a fucking badass.
Yeah. Yeah. I know what you're looking for. The anti-hero. You know?
Yes, he's you know, he's not necessarily a guy you would root for, but at the same time, it's like, well, fuck, he's everybody's only hope, so I gotta root for him at this point.
I really recommend next time that you watch it, if you can, get the commentary track. There's a commentary track with Carpenter and Kurt Russell sitting there talking about the movie, and it's awesome to hear what they went through, how Kurt Russell almost looks at himself comically. He laughs at his own performance so many times where he's like, oh God, I'm such a cornball. It's great. Yeah. I love it.
I'll have to try to find it on like Blu-ray or DVD somewhere. I actually watched it on Peacock, just because that was the only place I had that I had access to. So but yeah, it's definitely, I mean, it's one I want to add to my collection anyway at this point.
Yeah.
So, that's the best part about DVDs and Blu-ray and physical media is all the added bonus features and shit like that. Like, people ask me all the time, why do you collect DVDs and Blu-rays so much? Like, that's dying out. Like, because there's so much other shit on here. Like,
deleted scenes, man.
Yeah.
Which there are some really great deleted scenes from the thing.
Yeah, and then you have outtakes or these making of featurettes. Like, I used to love when at the end of a VHS tape there'd be like a 10-minute little making of mini doc.
Yeah.
But now you have on DVD and Blu-ray, you have full blown like, here it is, here it all is, which is so much better than just having the movie. I'd love to be able to watch a movie and then watch how it was done.
Mm-hmm.
you know,
it's just like, because then you get to see the love that it's made with. You get to see
absolutely.
the journey. Like there is a really cool feature on the DVD of how they traveled out there, because the whole crew almost died.
Wait, so they
Like,
legit shot this in Antarctica?
it was in Alaska, uh,
Okay.
but it was really remote Alaska, and there were some gnarly storms. It's a really cool featurette to check that out too. Um, Another really fun fact about it: the Norwegian camp that's all blown up.
Yeah.
They actually shot all that after. That's all done after they blew up the actual set.
Okay, so that's just the actual set
Yeah,
post burning to the ground, and they just
exactly.
hey, and there you go.
Like I always thought that was really funny. There are still people will go out there and visit the site.
Yeah, there's another great part there though with the Norwegians and Norwegian. He's why are we out here looking for these Swedes? Yeah,
Yeah. Yo, Sweden,
yeah,
they're
they're
Norwegian, man.
Norwegian.
Yeah, exactly. It's so quotable. It's just a really good movie, well acted, well written. Uh, I Again, for me, it's number one.
Yeah, yeah. Halloween will always be my number one. So we both have John Carpenter movies up there, which I think says something.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah,
I think that even though Carpenter, I think, almost reluctantly became a horror king, it suits him. He knows what scares people.
he knows how to create atmosphere, how to build tension and suspense. Yeah, he's right up there as one of the icons.
Absolutely, absolutely. And what I've been hearing is that he wants to revisit The Thing potentially.
I
I've
wouldn't
heard
I wouldn't be
TV
opposed to
series
it.
potentially. I've heard that he might be doing Dead Space, which I think would be really insane. Uh, Him doing a big budget like that, I think would be fantastic.
Yeah, definitely. And we got to get one more great Carpenter movie before the end of time. Like
Sure.
I mean, because he's up there now too, and still
He's
going though. Like
he's touring with his son, doing their albums. Like
yeah,
he's a whole synth artist now, where he'll go out and they'll play the scores that he created to the movies
yeah,
on the screen. I think it's really neat.
yeah. It's why I'd love to go see one of those and just experience that music in a live concert environment like that. That's got to be unique.
Yeah, it's cool how horror again is really getting its due. I think a lot of people now, you're seeing it played at bars. You're seeing a lot of movies around, or a lot of places around Philly. They have a horror night now. Uh, it's awesome.
Yeah,
It's a good time to be a horror fan.
look at just this time of the year.
Hmm.
Now
Hmm.
everybody gets into October and gets into Halloween, and the Spirit Halloween's got the greatest business model in the world. We're gonna open for like 2 months out of the year, make a ton of money, and then but it's all of that is because people are so into it now.
Yeah,
And
like even the kids I work with, they're all watching horror movies.
yeah,
They're all watching like what I'm watching, and I'm like, oh, good lord, your parents. Why are they letting you watch this? And then I remember, oh yeah, I watched this when I
yeah,
was
that's right. I
8
was
years
I was
old.
7, and my mom rented Halloween H2O for me. Like
12 going to House of a Thousand Corpses with mine.
yeah. Right, like it's so nice that horror is finally appreciated.
Hmm.
Like it's great. And then we get to do shit like this, and people listen, and it's cool because 20 years ago we'd just be a handful of geeks on a message board
Right.
somewhere. Like
which I definitely was.
Right. Yeah, I didn't get into the internet in the message board era, but yeah, that would have been, if I'd have known about it, I would have been there for sure.
It's cool because I think that's what kept a lot of it alive. And
right.
just like you're seeing now, it's all bubbled up, and now everybody seems to like it, and I'll take it. Even bad horror movies, I love them.
Oh,
like
dude,
Sharktopus, you know.
The bad ones sometimes are some of the best.
Yeah.
Oh
definitely.
God.
Definitely.
The Undertaker and his pals, like, that is fucking terrible, but it's hilarious. Like, that's one of those ones you just roll one up, sit back, and just go, what the fuck?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But that's the best part about horror, too, though. Like, whether it's a great movie that it genuinely gets a reaction out of you from a scares you,
Mm-hmm.
or it's a movie that you just sit around with a bunch of friends and laugh at. Like, every horror movie is an experience.
Yeah.
Every horror movie.
If I could encourage anything out of this, if you haven't seen The Thing, obviously check that out.
Yes.
Don't be afraid of older horror movies. Don't be afraid to. You see it on streaming. Well, it doesn't have a whole lot of reviews, but it might be all right. You could find a real winner there. Like, you could really find your next favorite horror flick.
Yeah, because there are so many from that era that still hold up today and can still, you know, are still relatable to some degree. Like, you really could find something, you know, that you fall in love with out there.
Definitely. There's so much out there. So I encourage everybody, check out Shudder, check out some of these other, there's a couple other, I think Screambox or something like that.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them out there. They're popping up.
Yeah.
There's some free ones, too, where you can watch some really crappy stuff, you know, as long as you don't mind sitting through commercials. Tubi's got a ton of shit. Only reason I don't like Tubi is there is not an ad-free option.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I can't watch a narrative movie with commercial breaks. Like,
I can understand it.
It just throws me all out of the experience.
I've had some of the other streaming services are a little bit worse. That one at least eases into the breaks. It doesn't just so.
Yeah, I'll give them that. They do a good job with that. But there's a lot of great horror documentaries on Tubi too. So don't
found footage, all sorts of good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, don't shy away from that stuff, and you know, because you may learn about a movie you might want to check out and may fall in love with. So
big time.
You got to be open-minded with horror.
What are you hoping to do more of? Like, what are some future projects that you want to work on with your platform? On
here,
mm-hmm.
You know, honestly, just having these conversations I find very enjoyable. I mean, I am going to probably do some solo stuff. I think next week's episode, as of to when this goes up. I do want to. I'm probably going to go more into telling my story with horror and how the Halloween franchise kind of molded me into a horror fan, because that's really where it all started for me, was with the Halloween franchise. So
yeah,
I think I'm going to delve into that and just kind of go into anything horror movies and explore and maybe learn a few things and whatnot.
It's good stuff. I think you'll have a lot of fun with it. It sounds like you're using this kind of like as a personal journey as well. You pick some really good people to be on your show. Me, of course. But I also got to put over my boy Getty Cahoon, who talked with you last week about Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That guy knows his stuff too.
Oh yeah, and it's a shame we lost a good 20 minutes of that interview, because that was good. There was some good shit, especially as we progressed in that last 20 minutes. But
yeah,
unfortunately, when you're working on a budget, you don't necessarily have the best of equipment all the time. So
it just means that you'll know what to talk about when you have him on next time.
Yeah, we got to go back and revisit the Michael Myers masks again, because that part, which is the only part he like mentioned when he like posted about it on social, is like we had this conversation about Michael Myers masks. It's like, nah, that's all gone.
Womp, womp.
But
Funny.
you know, hey, cliffhanger, you know, for the next time Getty's on, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Well, I really love it. I like that, you know, you're trying to get your voice out there. Keep going, man.
yeah, definitely. It's a lot of fun. And it does. It lets me just connect with people and talk about new things and whatnot. So, yeah, I'll be sticking with it for a little bit, and hopefully you guys will too. Where can everybody find you on the interwebs?
You can go on my Instas, which is Doc C Martin. So DOCCMARTIN. And then on Twitter, I am Dr. Carl Martin, Dr. Carl Martin, all one word. And yeah, let's connect. Let's talk. I love talking about horror on Twitter. I'm always posting up about wrestling. Got a couple shows coming up. Just had our first casket match against MV Young. Getty and I just got the crap beat out of us. It was fun. Yeah, and just I'm excited to see what's next. And I definitely think horror will always be a part of my storytelling.
Definitely, because you have incorporated it very well. But that is another discussion for another time, and I'm going to make you guys all come back for it.
Exactly.
God, I'm such a carny.
Hey, we're just working, brother.
Doc, thank you for coming on, man.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. This was fun.